the bulk of my research in my book, The War and Truth, concerns the role of Al Qaeda as an instrument of Western covert operations. And this really does, for me, fundamentally undermine the entire concept of the war on terror, the entire view that they've given us of 9/11 and what happened. Because if Al Qaeda is an instrument of covert operations rather than an enemy of the West, then there is no war on terror. And this is really the crux of the issue.
This is a typical British strategy. You've got to know the name of Brigadier General Sir Frank Kitson. He was the British operations officer in Kenya at the time of the Mau Mau. And what Kitson saw, which has been known to commanders for centuries, millennia, if you've got an underground nationalist organization and you want to discredit them, you create your own parallel underground nationalist organization. You send them out. It's got to have the same name. It's got to have a false flag. You send them out, have it commit tremendous atrocities. Those will be blamed on the original relatively benign group, and they'll be discredited, they'll be demonized, and you gain political advantage. He wrote a book about it called Low Intensity Operations. And the technique is called the technique of the counter gang or the pseudo gang. Just as Al Qaeda, in the broader sense, is a pseudo gang or counter gang created by US and British and Israeli intelligence. It's a counter gang against normal Arab nationalists or anybody with any positive agenda for reform or independence or development anywhere in the Arab world. They can always be labeled Al Qaeda. The reductio ad absurdum of this is President Chavez of Venezuela, after giving Bush a hard time at various conferences and doing things to undermine the dollar, the neocons are now accusing President Chavez of being a member of Al Qaeda. So you can see how easy it is to demonize somebody once you've got a good counter gang going.
It's now being documented beyond a doubt based on historical records that the CIA, the MI6, teamed up with very, very secretive parallel elements of European intelligence services and orchestrated terrorist attacks to mobilize the public against the left, against the communists, and so on and so forth. And this would be really shocking to people if they knew that this is what happened. And this is what happened. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the best book on it is Daniel Ganser's book, NATO's Secret Armies. So this is serious academic stuff.
There's an oligarchical consensus in the United States, inspired by the neocons, inspired by Samuel Huntington and the rest of them, which is that without an enemy image, you cannot have an oligarchical society. Ultimately, that's the why. Because if you look at this, you say, terrorism, endless war. Why? Who benefits? Those who benefit are the beneficiaries of the current system, financiers primarily. They feel that without the diversion of a war, they cannot maintain social relations, property relations in the current form. And this they are determined to do. So they have manufactured, in a complete hysteria, a largely fictitious external enemy. You remember 1984 by George Orwell. Julia at one point says, I don't even think there is a war. It's just a fake to keep people under control. Orwell, I think, had a very good understanding of some of these psychological mechanisms.
It's absolutely clear to me that a conscious decision has been made by the highest elements of our governments to allow and proliferate a terrorist threat. And this justifies the absolute wholesale militarization of policy, not just in terms of foreign policy, but at home in the crushing of civil liberties, the criminalization of dissent, the introduction of draconian terrorist legislation, which only allows governments to have even more powers against free speech and against public mobilization. So this is really the function that Al Qaeda plays. It plays a fundamentally functional role in a myriad ways, fueling covert operations, securing oil and gas interests quite directly, and indirectly generating the justification and the ideological framework necessary to legitimize this whole insanely repressive structure of violence that we have today, called the War on Terror, which is really just a gigantic lie. This has been fabricated for this purpose.
When you see Bush defend his Iraq policy, you will see that he does not use Iraq arguments in terms of closing the deal. When it comes to the heart of the matter, he uses 9/11 arguments. If he's asked, why did 2,000 people have to die in Iraq for no reason? The answer is 9/11, the lessons of 9/11. I know it's hard, but these are the lessons of 9/11. With that kind of demagogy, he's able to keep a hard core of 30 to 35% of the American public. With 30 to 35%, he will be able to stay in office and wage war indefinitely. He'll be able to go for a wider war. He can manufacture new 9/11s to firm up that base. He and Cheney can provoke incidents that will lead to war with Iran, with Syria, with Venezuela, with North Korea. There's no limit to this. It has no bounds. The only way to begin to attrit and to erode and to break up his 30 to 35% base is to begin dismantling the myth of September 11th.
Because without accurate information, without an accurate understanding of the world, you cannot have a functional democracy. If people don't know what's going on, and if people don't understand what their leaders are doing, there's no democracy.
This is the biggest problem, because as long as the American people are so susceptible to propaganda through the television and the mass media, I really can't see how they will get themselves out of the predicament that they're in.
Denial is actually, it's the default condition. We all live in it continually, and it takes a deliberate effort to stick your head up above that state of denial and catch a breath of fresh air and really see what's going on.